Hi everybody, it's Carrie from Flowers for Dreams. Welcome back to another DIY floral segment where we'll design together week by week with fresh flowers delivered right to your door. So I am really excited about this week's color palette. We're finally into those beautiful whites and winter blues season. And we have some really beautiful, gorgeous flowers to work with today. So there's two, if you are using this vase, I'm actually going to use a different vase that I'm really excited about to show you a different, just a different look in case you ever want to switch it up with your vase. But if you are using our classic mason jar, this will work just the same way. And it's going to be really beautiful. I'm going to be designing in one of our compo vases that I've borrowed from our wedding department. So just a note, I'm still recovering from losing my voice last week. So if you notice that my voice sounds a little muppety, it's because I'm still recovering. I've been drinking chicken soup and tea, and I'm on my way to feeling right as rain very soon. All right, let's look at our flowers this week. Oh, I'm so excited. We have some really gorgeous stems to work with for our foliage. That's right, it's evergreen time. It's my favorite time of year for really beautifully scented evergreens. So we've got this gorgeous white pine, and if you want to just give it a snip with your clippers and enjoy that lovely scent. It's better than any holiday scented candle, and it's gonna fill your home with that same scent. So this is our white pine. You can always tell pine from the needles. So white pine has these long needly type branches. Other types of evergreens like cedar, cypress, California sapphire, even noble fir have a different needle shape, but white pine has this beautiful long fringy foliage that I love. We've also got a fun one, privet berry. Ooh la la, this is gorgeous. You do want to be careful with berries dropping because that does tend to happen with fresh berries. So once you're done designing, I would make sure you put this in a spot where it's going to avoid getting on any carpet, because whenever you have fresh berries, it can drop. But this is a really special winter berry. I always love when we're able to get winter berries in the right season, because I think they just add so much to an arrangement. Okay, I've got my couple extra pieces here. Ooh, okay, we have our thistle, blue thistle. I'm told by a lot of people that this is one of their favorite flowers, and a lot of people use it in their wedding bouquets. It's very long lasting. I use it for dried arrangements because it dries very, very well. And it's blue, which is one of the more rare colors in the floral world. So you don't see a lot of blue, and it's a fun way to add a pop of blue to your arrangement, whether it's, in our autumnal collection that we just finished up. Now we're in our winter collection. If you haven't checked it out, go to our website. Blue can add really great, cool contrast to your warm colors, or in this case, we're doing it with a white and green palette, and it'll just feel really cool and calm and peaceful and serene. And that's kind of the vibe of today's arrangement. We've got our Alstroemeria lilies. These are white. They look kind of green right now because they have not opened. Mine have been tucked up in the cooler, so they're fully closed, and they're gonna open up over the next couple of days. We have our white rose. I'm actually not sure what variety this is. Maybe a Playa Blanca rose. We've got two big, beautiful white roses. We have some Lizianthus It's been really hard to get Lizianthus this year for whatever reason. A lot of things have changed over the course of the pandemic, and Lizianthus used to be a really reliable flower for commercial growers, and it's become less so. So whenever we get really good Lizianthus, I get super excited. Our white spray rose. Let me see, mine had a little bit of damage on it, so I'm gonna pull this other one. Sometimes that happens. The outer petals usually incur some of the damage from the transport process, and especially in winter where if you're in the Midwest, we can't grow our own flowers. So your flowers are likely coming from somewhere warm, California, a lot of times Ecuador. Got our beautiful white snapdragons. Typically a spring flower, but we can get it a lot of the year now, which is really great. And then our baby blue eucalyptus. I have a little dried behind me. Now both eucalyptus and pine can be used similarly in the shower. I can't remember if I've already talked about this with you all, but if you've ever seen people hang eucalyptus up in the shower and let the aromatics release with a little rolling pin, you can actually do the same with evergreens and holiday evergreens. So if you can get your hands on some pine or cedar, give it a little smush with a rolling pin, hang it up in your shower, and it'll have that gorgeous scent that is a little more earthy than the sharp eucalyptus. And this arrangement is a really beautiful palette for a sympathy bouquet. So if you've ever made flowers and wanted to give it to a friend who may be going through a tough time, white and blue is such a serene, calming color palette that would be suited really, really well to a sympathy arrangement. Again, you can always use your Flowers for Dreams mason jar, and I'm going to be swapping out one of our wedding compotes. It's a footed mercury glass compote, really beautiful. Mercury glass tends to be sort of foiled on the interior and has this very elegant look to it. So if you do want to switch out your vase, you can look for something with a similar opening. This is probably maybe 1/2 inch wider than our traditional mason jar, but I wanted to show you other options that you can try at home. I also love picking up vases from the thrift store. You'll find some really interesting, neat finds if you just start looking around, and they don't have to be super expensive, but this is from our beautiful wedding collection. It's because I'm using a wider mouth vase, I'm gonna design with a little chicken wire. If you haven't used chicken wire before, I highly recommend picking some up from the craft store. It's really easy to get a hold of, and it's perfect for maybe a vase that has a wider mouth that's gonna take a little bit more greenery to design in. Maybe you want to play around with a different style that's more long and asymmetrical. Chicken wire will really help to hold everything, all those stems in place in the base of your vase. I first learned it from Martha Stewart, and it's great because it's reusable. So you can use it again after you design your flowers in it today, maybe for your next arrangement as well. So really handy to have some chicken wire around. It's moldable as well. So before I put it in my vase, I'm gonna just smush it on up, get it nice and molded. I've seen some people do, some designers do either like a little cave shape, or you can smush it up and have even more of, secure. So your stem is going through not 1, but 2 levels. But the key is just getting it below the water line. It can be really fun to play around with these different techniques using chicken wire. I'm such a huge proponent of chicken wire, and I always try to tell new designers about it because it's sustainable. It's so much better than event foam that you see a lot of event designers working with. Those are great for maybe day of arrangements. They're also not so great for the environment. So fun to try a little chicken wire design. So let's start with our pine. Now your pine tips, these are really pretty and fringy. The growth pattern for your pine is usually this sort of cylindrical stem with these kind of Charlie Brown lateral stems coming off of it. So I like to just trim up at that joint. Always look for the joints where you can cut your stems and really get the most out of your stems with without sacrificing the length for these little shorter guys. So I've got a couple of these little puffs, and I'm gonna try to maintain the natural shape so that I have a really organic look to this arrangement. So you can keep these little tines attached. Once you start cutting, you might even see a little sap coming through in the water. And then the old measuring technique, I like to hold my my stems right up against the side of the vase. And then we can start to fill out the vase shape a little bit. Now, one thing to know about working with chicken wire, if you want to try it, is that it can be harder to get your stems to come out. So it's also a great practice in putting a stem in and sticking to that decision. Because when you pull it out, it's probably going to start to get stuck in the chicken wire mesh. So I'm just filling out my vase with some of these pretty fringy pieces. Always give it a turn. I still have a couple holes in here in the center, and I've got one more piece of pine, actually it looks like two more, that I can add to this base. Nice lush base. Anything below the water line, always strip off your foliage. Tuck that in there. And maybe one more right in the center. This is starting to look like it's gonna be a taller arrangement. And because we have this really gorgeous baby blue eucalyptus, I'm gonna lean into that. I always try to let my arrangement tell me what it wants to be. So if I start to notice some shapes emerging early on in the design process, I'll lean into that. If you've ever taken a class with me, you may have heard me say that. Lean into the shape of your design. It's still kind of rounded, and add a few more pieces here right on the side. All right, feeling good about that. I've just got a little extra pine so I can tuck in around the outer edges when I'm done. Oh, look at that, so fun. You could almost decorate this instead of a Christmas tree if you are short on space. If like me, you live in a smaller home. So let's cut down our baby blue eucalyptus. I love these natural shapes that I'm getting with the little short tendrils, and can be fun to get local eucalyptus. Local eucalyptus grows in the Midwest can grow until December in a hoop house, and they tend to have softer, more tender tips than commercial stems. So whenever I'm able to get local eucalyptus, you can get it in the summer at the farmer's market, and we have a local grower who's fantastic. So all these smells are gonna start to start to overtake your senses. Took me a minute to find the word there. I'm gonna add my eucalyptus tendrils spinning as I go, and this will add another blue element. This is kind of this variety of eucalyptus is called baby blue. There's actually so many different varieties of eucalyptus. There's seeded eucalyptus, silver dollar. Baby blue has these typical spirals. I say it's commonly known, I think, because it's been popularized by places like Trader Joe's, so it's easy to get a hold of. When we can get local, I try to. I'm obsessed with local eucalyptus. All right, you could even go really tall if you want to experiment, play around with these lovely long eucalyptus pieces. I'm gonna let them kind of float up and out. This is another one that dries beautifully. So you can try drying it in a vase without any water, maybe reduce the water to about 1 inch with just your eucalyptus. Pine dries pretty well. It has kind of a funky smell, so I'm not a huge fan of dried evergreens personally, but this stuff looks exactly the same and dries wonderfully. All right, I've got my wild, big arrangement. I think I'm gonna start, again, building out a little more structure in the center with some of these privet berries. And then we can add our flowers. So check these out. You may wanna just go in and take the extra time. I'm gonna scoot the arrangement out of the way for a second to clip off anything that's missing a berry. So if it's got a little stem but no berry on it, just go in and clip that off. Again, the foliage it's got really sturdy, pretty foliage, so I want to try to leave as much as I can, but it does sustain sometimes the brunt of damage from shipment. So if you need to, pick off some of those pieces. And flowers are tough, but they're not always totally infallible. So that's why sometimes you may get little broken tip pieces. I love this shape that this privet berry has. I'm gonna try to maintain this natural shape and add it to my arrangement, this beautiful curve. Here's kind of another gentle curve. So maybe take a look at the shapes that you have on your privet berry. And I'm saving most of the top foliage. If it looks good, I'm gonna save it because I think it's a really pretty contrast to our pine and our baby blue eucalyptus. Oh, wow. Oh, love how dramatic that is. The other piece that I have, I actually have a lot. So I think I'm gonna add sort of a drapey piece. And if you ever have stems that are so drapey that they flop over, you can sometimes use the other stems to help hold them up. So I'll anchor them in the middle of my arrangement, and that can be an easy way to let them fold out and sit on top of another piece of foliage. All right, wow, I really got the jackpot this time with the privet berry. So I'm gonna cut off these lateral stems. You always wanna be careful with these short stems because you don't ever want them to be out of water. But I'll start with this taller piece first. Let's go in and check out anybody missing berries. Take off any of the foliage that might be broken. Be really gentle. These leaves are turning brown, so I'm gonna cut those out. Oh, I love this privet berry. Let's put this, again, I'm gonna keep this natural shape of the crown piece. I cut off these two lateral sides, but I'll leave it up and out so you really can see the berries. Sometimes for woody stems like this, I'm gonna go ahead and split the stem up the center just to give it a little more access to water, because really, really woody stems tend to have trouble drinking up water. So wow, this is really coming into itself as a tall, grand, beautiful grand arrangement. And part of that is because I put some chicken wire in the base, so it's holding really nice and firmly at the base of this gorgeous compote vase. And the mouth is wide, so it really allows everything to fully be its fullest expression. I've kept my pieces long. I'm gonna rearrange some of these eucalyptus stems to distribute a little more of that color throughout the middle. And then for these shorter stems, you can tuck them in the bottom, but we really want them to touch the bottom of the vase if possible, so they're almost a little too short, but I'm gonna risk it. If you get stems like that, you just kind of want to make sure that you're maintaining the water level. All right, I've got a really robust and full arrangement here with my, I'm gonna add one more piece of pine with my privet berries. It's kind of blocking the privet. I've left the stems a little bit longer, and I'm using a wider mouth vase. Again, this will work in your mason jar too. So if that's what you're using, you can always try the same technique, just with a slightly smaller vase. Now we can add our flowers. This is show-stopping already. I'm really excited about it. Let's add our linears next. So pull out your Snapdragon, clean off these a little bit, and you could either put these in the middle of the arrangement. I'm gonna try to leave them long so that the white snap flower really shows. I don't want to hide this. I might need to cut off a little bit more, and I'll let that drape of the snap sort of lean to two sides. Gorgeous. And then we can go in with some of our secondary flowers. Whoops, I dropped one of my roses, so I'm gonna have to place it from over here. Let's add some fillers. Technically this is a filler, but it's gorgeous, and it continues that blue theme we have going on. Need to take this down a little bit shorter. The berries, just a little pop of blue in the front there. And then can add my Alstroemeria. Whenever you're stripping Alstroemeria, pull off these lower petals, lower leaves rather. Anything along the base of the stem, of course. And then I like to just clear a little bit more so that my buds can be seen. This one's a little bit more of a modest Alstroemeria. I think this one's got 5 or so buds that'll open up. I'm gonna leave this really tall. So it has, again, we're going with that height. Oh, look at that. That will open up, it will pop open and be really, really gorgeous. Looks like I could use a little more white right in the center here. Let's see, I want to draw that out a little bit more so you can really see it when it opens. And in a couple days, it doesn't look like much now, but in a couple days, that will just pop open. Now let's add our Lizianthus. So glad we were able to get this pretty Lizianthus. It's a very beautiful flower that is also long lasting. I feel like I say that a lot, but I try to choose flowers that will have a really nice vase life so you can enjoy them for longer. So go ahead and pull off the leaves from the base of the stem. And then we've got a lot of heads on this one piece of Lizianthus. So I can find that lower joint. I usually start from the lower part of the joint and then see where I can divide it. So you can work your way up the stem. And then now I've got 3 little pieces. If I want to, I could even divide it further, but I think I'm gonna stick with 3 for evenness or odd numbers' sake. I love odd numbers. I think they look much more natural than even for some reason. Because, you might find symmetry in nature, but we're just gonna find balance, but I don't know, I like the asymmetry. So we're adding our Lizianthus and putting it along, filling out the center area with my spray, so this whole big beautiful spray, but leaving some space for my white roses. All right, let's see where I want to put this. So I think I'm going to tuck my spray rose right at the bottom, pull off the outer petals. You can kind of see the guard petals. A lot of people will receive an arrangement and think that it's dead when actually it's just the guard petals have not been removed. So you can get to the base of that flower. Sometimes the guard petals will have a little green in them. That's how you can tell a guard petal. It's the oldest part of the flower and it protects the flower. So I'm gonna pull those closed, and these buddies will open up as soon as they've had a chance to be exposed to the air. So I'm gonna just let them hang out and open up, and then add my white spray rose kind of in the front and center. Now for our final focal flowers. Gorgeous! I know not everybody is a rose person. I do like them. Some people I think are, just like people used to say no carnations, some people now say no roses, but really what more beautiful flower can you imagine than a rose? It's just so lovely. And that really packed center. When I'm pairing 2 roses together, I like to kind of cluster them for some, picking off all the guard petals, and then check out the size you have going on. I've sort of got one that's a little bit smaller, so I'm gonna lean into that and pull off a few more petals. Now I've got one small, one big, and can add that to my arrangement. Angled cut, roses love hydration, so you're gonna want to make sure you're using your sharp clippers and a good angled cut. Then I'm gonna place my first rose a little lower because it's got a heavier weight to it, and then maybe my smaller rose a little taller. All right, now everything over the next couple of days is gonna truly open up and really become its most beautiful, fullest expression of itself. I really leaned into the height that we got from both the pine and the baby blue eucalyptus. And as a finishing touch, I do have a little bit of pine left. Sorry, I'm blocking the camera here. I'm gonna use these little short pieces of pine that I still have left. This is a trick that can be really helpful just to add a really beautiful finishing touch. It's like a little covering up all of those leaves. So just easing the transition from vase to flowers. You could either do all the way around if you have enough foliage, or just kind of at the base to cover up those stems that are showing. As always, don't forget to change your water, and if you're changing the water with chicken wire in it, go ahead and stick the water over the edge lip of the vase and let the water overflow. And if you were designing in your mason jar without chicken wire, you can grab the entire arrangement and pull it out, fill it up again, and pop it back in. I even do that sometimes right after designing. Thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope you enjoy this beautiful white and blue arrangement. And I'd love to hear more of what you'd like to see on this channel. If you want to go ahead and pop over to the comments, let us know what you like, what you want to see, and I'll be back next week. Bye, everybody.